Hey guys, Mark here. In this video, I'm going to be going over how to target on Facebook ads in order to get the maximum return on ad spend and run ads that are hyper profitable. If you've been running Facebook ads for more than one day, you probably understand that what works 6 to 12 months ago is not what works now. So in this video, I'm literally going to detail exactly what works right now, step by step, so that you can steal it and use it for yourself. So when it comes to targeting on Facebook, the way that I'd like to think about it is there's a very, very clear right and wrong way to target on Facebook. So let's first talk about exactly what you shouldn't do if you want to run profitable ads on Facebook when it comes to the targeting. And then right after that, I'll actually show you like the right way to target on Facebook specifically. Now, before I actually show you the first wrong way of targeting on Facebook, I need you to understand how Facebook works. Number one, Facebook is not a social media company. It is a data company. And so it functions extremely, extremely well with really broad audiences. So it functions really, really well the more data that you give it. Previously, before up until a few years ago, all the targeting and data that you gave Facebook was based off the inputs that you gave it. For example, what type of audiences are you using? What type of settings at the ad set level are you using, etc. Now, recently, this is really not the case anymore. Most of the targeting on Facebook is now done at the creative level. And so in this video, I'm not going to be going over like how to structure a good creative. I have another video on that. You can click the second link in the description and check that out. But this video is specifically about how to target. So how to set up everything right within the ads manager. Okay. Because what you probably don't know is that Facebook will analyze everything about your creative, from the person on the ad. What is their skin tone? Are they male or female? How old are they? And they're actually using AI to analyze every single little facet of your ad. And they're using that to power the targeting. So previously you could set up a specific interest audience or a custom audience, and it would literally run directly to those people, and that'd be like the most profitable audience that you can run, right? Well, now that's not really the case anymore. A lot of the targeting now is done at the creative level. So if you don't have good creatives and they're not really calling out your target prospect, you're always going to be struggling. So the first main type of targeting that I would not recommend you go with if you're just starting out, or especially if you're scaling, is going to be interest targeting. All right. So interests are basically categories that Facebook will put people in if they dictate that a particular user is interested in a topic, in a career, etc. Now, the reason that this no longer works as well as it used to is simply because you are actually paying a premium because Facebook is tagging that particular buyer on Facebook as an interest buyer. And what happens a lot of times is that you'll have some really small pockets within a particular interest audience that are profitable. But overall, as you scale, it just gets more and more difficult because your audience is always capped. And Facebook as an algorithm works extremely well with data. So the more data you can give it about your buyer, the better. Interest audiences are really the thing that if you Google something, or if you click on one single ad or engage with one single post, you suddenly start seeing all these posts that are being related to the one thing that you clicked on originally. This is the power of interest targeting. It's still very powerful and it does work sometimes, but it's definitely not a way that is extremely scalable. And it's not a way that I would recommend that you start out on a brand new ad account either. This is what I mean. The majority of brands out there, when they're just starting out and when they're scaling, are all targeting directly interest audiences on Facebook, which means that you are paying a premium just to target the same audience as everybody else. What I would much rather do is set up a better audience that has less competition and still is going after the right high qualified buyers. So if you're in your Facebook ads account, you're at the ad set level. If you want to target an interest audience, all you do is you go to switch to original audience options. You're going to hit use original audience, and you're just going to scroll down until you see this advanced detailed targeting section. Now, if I were to type in, for example, hair care into the search bar, and I select, this one right here, you can see it's a very large audience. That would be what an interest audience is, and that's how you run it. The second main type of audience that I would not recommend that you run too much anymore is going to be the lookalike audiences. So lookalike audiences are, you give Facebook what's called a seed audience. So for example, if I have 1,000 buyers for my product, that'll be my seed audience. I upload them to Facebook, and then a lookalike creates a variation that looks a lot like that original seed audience. And you can create degrees of separation of how close you want that new lookalike audience to be to the seed audience. Now, if I were starting back in 2018, 2019, lookalikes were the shit. They were smashing. As soon as you got enough buyers, enough add to carts, enough view contents for your lookalike audience, you run that lookalike and it would destroy. It was a super, super powerful audience. Now, especially after in 2021, when we went through the iOS 14 updates, there's significantly less data that is powering those lookalikes. And so for that reason, lookalikes started to get nerfed. They were not nearly as powerful as they used to be years and years ago. So lookalikes are another type of audience that I really try to kind of stay away from. I still test them here and there, to be totally honest with you, and they never really work at scale. So I pretty much have moved completely away from lookalike audiences in general, unless it's something very, very niche that I'm running. But for me, I'm a big scale guy. Like I'm going broad, I'm going after a lot of people. So the niche thing typically doesn't apply a whole lot to me. Another poor thing about lookalike audiences, guys, is that they get really, really expensive. Like oftentimes on a brand, not on a brand new ad account, but after you have a little bit of spend behind your particular offer, the product that you're selling, and you test a lookalike, I've seen CPMs higher than my interest audiences, higher than any other audience that I run. I'm talking like $150 plus. And that's ridiculous because I already paid to create the seed audience that the lookalike is being built off of. So it's ridiculous. And for that reason, I don't really enjoy using lookalike inside of my ads manager. If you want to run a lookalike audience after you're in your campaign and you go to your ad set level, that's going to be right under custom audiences. So if I were to click in here and I select lookalike audiences, I can now see all the various lookalikes that I've created. You can see it's nicknamed by percentages. So the closer that percentage is to 1, so for example, this one is a 1% lookalike of our customer list. The closer the percentage is to 1, the closer it's going to be to that original seed audience. And if you do like 10%, for example, then it's going to get farther and farther away from that original seed audience. And as a consequence, make that audience bigger and bigger and bigger. And the third and final kind of like wrong type of audience that you can run, it's just going to be any type of custom audience. Custom audiences specifically got nerfed for the exact same reason that lookalikes did, because this is the original, when I said seed audience, the custom audience is that seed audience. So if I do get 1,000 sales for a particular product that I'm buying and I want to upload a customer list, that will be the custom list that I'm running ads to. So for example, this can work really well for, middle funnel remarketing campaigns, bottom of funnel remarketing campaigns, anything where you have already the data and you want to remarket to them. The problem is, number one, if you're running like a really broad audience, you're already going to be hitting people more than once. It's just a part of the game. And then number two, because of iOS 14, there is significantly less people that are actually being entered into the custom audience, which not only makes the lookalike less powerful, it makes the original custom audience less powerful as well. So I don't really run the custom audiences really at all when it comes to structuring my ad accounts and running ads on Facebook. And to set up custom audiences, it's basically in the same place as lookalikes. You come in here and you just select custom audience. And here you can see, I know you can't see this, guys, but this is a buyer list, another buyer list, an email list, a Facebook ad engagement list. So again, this is where you select them, but I just told you guys that I don't run these anymore. So I'm not going to actually go through and set up everything. Let's actually talk about the best audiences that you can run on Facebook. The best audience by far that you can run on Facebook is going to be what we consider a broad audience. So this is a very, very large audience. And the only time that this actually works, guys, is like a really important caveat, is when you actually have a really good creative. Okay. So like I said, everything stems from the creative level. If you don't have a creative that's talking to the right person in the right way, it doesn't matter how you target on Facebook. It's not going to work. So you need to have really high performing creative. So let me just kind of get that out the way because I need you guys to know that. Now, broad audiences can kind of be segmented in a few different ways. All right. Way number one is you have kind of what I call the old school broad, right? So let's just write old school right here. Now, the way you set up old school broad audiences is if you're in one of your ad sets here, for example, we're going to scroll down to that same section, and right where it says Advantage Plus Audience, we're just going to hit Switch to Original Audience Options. Now, once you're down here, you want to only add a few different restrictions. Number one is going to be the age. Number two is gender. And number three is language. Other than that, you're not touching anything. You're not adding any interests, any demographics, any behaviors. This little bar right here should remain untouched. Okay. And so all you're doing is you're telling Facebook, hey, I'm just basically targeting in these countries to these ages, and that's it. I'm not telling you anything else about the customer that I'm going after. And this works really well, like I said, when you have a lot of data in the ad account, and even sometimes when you're just starting out, because again, a lot of the targeting is done at the creative level. Now, there's a reason that I call this old school targeting, because another type of broad audience that you can target is called Advantage Plus audiences. So by default, the Advantage Plus audience is typically already pre-selected. So as you can see, we've got the check marks right here. And if you switch to original, that would take you like to the OG broad. But this is like the new school broad. It's called Advantage Plus. It's basically Facebook's fancy way of saying, hey, we'll do all the targeting on our end. Don't worry about anything. You sit back, relax. You be a Chad media buyer. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of you. That's what Advantage Plus targeting is. And this is extremely, extremely powerful, because you're using the number one asset to Facebook, which is its data. And if you have the right messaging on your creative, then this can work extremely well. And even better, this is not only a massive audience, right? Anytime you run broad, you're basically running to hundreds of millions of people, but it also has massive scale, okay? Which means that this is an audience that can actually be consistent for you. So I know a lot of people talk about Facebook ads, and I know I completely spelled that wrong, but you get the idea. A lot of people talk about Facebook ads are like, man, I can't get my Facebook ads to be consistent, blah, blah, blah. It's so annoying. It's just up and down, up and down, up and down. two things to say about that. Number one, part of that is fucking normal. You're advertising to human beings on one of the most emotional platforms on the planet. Do you expect it to be, a consistent, smooth ride every day? Probably not. Number two, you can limit those inconsistencies by consolidating your ad account and by targeting much broader audiences and letting Facebook do more of the heavy lifting. Another cool part about this is as you scale, you're going to have more ads to manage. And the more ads to manage means that you are going to have less time to actually manage those ads, which is not a good recipe if you're an entrepreneur, requiring more and more time inside of the ads manager. What you want to do as you scale is you actually want to consolidate the account, which means fewer campaigns with greater audiences, and you're really just competing on creatives. Competing on media buying is one of the most difficult things to do on the planet. The best media buyers in the world are extremely, extremely data heavy, meaning they want to see Facebook do the heavy lifting. They just want to put in the right inputs, and then they're going to step back and let Facebook do its thing. So as long as you set up your campaigns in the right way, and really, I'm going to go back to it one last time, I promise. If your creatives are good, then you'll be able to scale without spending every 5 minutes inside of the ads manager. I've personally been the type of guy who's inside of an ads manager, like every 30 minutes, refreshing, making cuts, scales, etc. And I've also been the guy that checks the ad account once a day. And that's at the same spend. That's at like $10,000 to $20,000 per day in ad spend. And the only difference between those two is one time the account was not consolidated and the other time it was. Another thing that I hear really often is like, this account structure, like this audience doesn't work for me, right? I tried it myself, Mark, I followed your video, I tried it and it doesn't work for me. The reality of that situation is that if you try this really consolidated structure and you're trying these more broad audiences and it's still not working, the real reason, the deep reason that you probably don't want to hear is that your creatives suck. You can have amazing creatives and it'll work on any structure of your ad account. It'll work on any audience that you're testing if your creatives are really that good. So if you try this new structure and it's not working for you, you need better creatives. You need to start actually building a team within your business that can pump out high quality, data-driven creatives every single week. We test anywhere from 20 to 50 creatives per week. Minimum. That's not including the copy. That's not including the audiences. That's just the creatives. That's the image or video that we're testing. 20 to 50 a week is what we do. That's our KPI. If you're not at that level, unless you're like a complete beginner, if you're not at that level, then you need to step up your game. Because the more you test, the more data you get, the more you're going to understand what your audience actually resonates with. And then you can switch to that consolidated account structure and just watch your ads fly. Another thing I've heard a lot of people say is like, Mark, I'm running this really niche product. I can't run broad. I don't want to market to everybody. If you believe that, then you seriously misunderstand how the Facebook algorithm actually works. The whole point of gathering data is to gather data around the right people, the people that are actually your customers. So the more data you give Facebook in the form of ad spend, the more data it's going to return you and give you back into your ad account tracked by your pixel about where your customers actually buy. And so going broad doesn't mean that you're just going to target everybody on Facebook. It means you're just going to open up the gates and let Facebook do all the heavy lifting for you. And the final objection some people say, they're like, Mark, I have a new ad account. I can't just go running broad straight from zero. And once again, that is completely wrong. Again, guys, if you're running on broad, all the targeting is going to be done at the creative level. It used to be the case maybe a few years ago where you wouldn't want to run an account from day one on broad targeting. Facebook has evolved an insane amount since that point in time. We now have the extreme addition of artificial intelligence to power the targeting and the creatives on Facebook. So if you have creatives that are really good and you still set up, for example, like an Advantage Plus interest audience or Advantage Plus CBO, that can still absolutely destroy. That's how powerful the new Facebook targeting is. So I'm not saying like you can just sit back from day one and, never check your ad account. You still want to read the data because it's a constant game of iteration, but you don't need to obsess over, interest. Oh, it looked like this, that. Just start with broad and you can typically see good results from day one if your creatives are good. And then you can make the cuts, you can make the scales, you can see where your audience actually resonates with. Facebook ads and honestly ads in general are skewing more and more to just becoming a game of creatives. Whoever has the best creatives will win. I will always pick somebody who's just a master at creatives to hire in my business compared to somebody who's just a master media buyer. So guys, as you can tell, I've gone through the most important targeting options that you have on Facebook. At the end of the day, creatives are king. Creatives are going to be the majority of what powers the targeting on Facebook in 2024 and 2025. And this is what you actually need to be focusing 90% of your effort on. Don't spend hours and hours every day, especially if you're just starting out, micro-analyzing your ads manager. Just look at what the data is telling you And then you're going to make better creatives based off of the data that Facebook gives you. For example, if you have one ad that has an extremely low click-through rate and high CPC and another that has vice versa, very high CTR and very low CPCs, then you can tell which one is resonating with your audience more. And then based off of that particular ad that you're running, you create new variations and new variations off of those variations. And the more you do that, the more you are beginning to understand what your customers actually resonate with, which will just power more and more profit into your business. You need to understand that Facebook is literally analyzing everything about your ad, not only your ad, but also your landing page and everything about your business in order to find you the best customers. So if I was running this business right here, for example, and I was Facebook, I'm of course going to look at the photos. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at that, but I'm not going to look at it like this. What Facebook sees is this, just this massive page after page after page of code. And so this is how it analyzes the copy on your page. This is how it analyzes the images. This is really what it sees. Okay. So it's not just you need to have really good creatives, but that's why I'm so heavy on scaling with funnels. You need to have a really well-designed landing page process, a full funnel from start to finish, because Facebook is going to analyze this word, this word, this word, this word, this image, these features. It's going to take all of that data into consideration when it's going out and trying to serve you the person who's most likely to buy your product. And by the way, to do that little trick, I don't know if you guys saw it, just right click and hit view page source. And you can see all the data right here. You can scroll forever. And you can also see data specifically about like the extensions that your competitors are using, the landing page builders that you're using, etc. So luckily for you, Facebook actually put out a formula for how they calculate what's called the total value of an ad. Now the formula has changed a little bit, but this concept is super, super important to understand even until today. Because if you're asking, okay, Mark, I understand creatives are king. How do I create good creatives? Well, part of that is understanding this formula right here. So the total value of an ad, and remember, Facebook is an auction-based platform. Every time there's an impression of an ad, behind the scenes, there's actually an auction going on to figure out which competitor is going to place for that particular format and fight for that impression. And the more auctions you win, the more impressions you have, the lower CPMs, the more Facebook is going to reward you with the best traffic they have at their disposal. And so the total value equation is what's called the advertiser bid. So if you're using like lowest cost conversions, that's done automatically. If you do manual bidding, that's going to put you at a higher level in the auction, times estimated action rates. And the estimated action rates here, this is actually going to be the conversion rate on your website. So how likely is somebody who clicks actually going to go through and purchase from your website? Facebook actually knows that, and they take that into consideration. If you have a very, very low action rate on your website, for example, a very, very low conversion rate under, let's say like 1%, just like terrible, then why would they send you more traffic? Because clearly there's some mismatch. You have to always view things from Facebook's perspective. They're sending you traffic. They're like, okay, I think the best buyer for you guys. Let's see what he does. And then he goes through, browses your website, and then he leaves. He doesn't buy. And that happens 99 out of 100 times. Facebook is going to penalize you for that because you are creating ads that are not really resonating with the thing that you're actually optimizing for, which is a conversion, a sale. And so this formula here could be very valuable. The final part here is user value. And this is really like, how are people reacting to the ad that you're giving them? What is the relevance score, quality score, conversion rate score, etc.? What is the thumbnail stop rate? What is the hold rate? How well is your ad stopping people and not completely pissing them off? That's basically how Facebook views it. Once again, if there's anything else you take from this video, please let it be that creatives are king. Like, this is how every ad platform is, by the way. It's not just Facebook. It's TikTok, it's Snapchat, it's even Google and YouTube. Creatives are the currency, and it's beautiful because it's a level playing field for everybody. The person with the best creatives will win. And so that's why inside Brand Builders Academy, which is the program I have with Alex Fedotov, we literally teach you exactly step by step how to create these creatives that are most likely to be rewarded by Facebook in the auction, which means a higher conversion rate, which means more profitable ads and more profit for you in your pocket. And so if you're interested in kind of learning that process step by step, you can just fill out an application, click the first link in the description, and apply for BBA today. And other than that, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.